Welcome to the Curious Culture Club. What dramatic revelations were exposed in the Trump trial today? Let's discuss the occurrences of the day. The early hours saw significant development, with Eric Trump being the first from Trump's family present in the courtroom to uphold his father, illustrating unity in these challenging times. As the legal proceedings commenced, the judge didn't waste a second in implementing the law, accusing Trump of criminal contempt for infringing a gag order and slapping a substantial fine of $9,000. The courtroom rippled with whispers as the judge permitted Trump to attend his son's graduation ceremony, a brief respite in a day brimming with tension. However, the stern admonition that trailed, menacing Trump with imprisonment for any additional breaches of the gag order, emphasized the seriousness of the predicament. As the day unfolded, Gary Farrow, a pivotal figure in this escalating drama, took the stand again. His evidence pledged to illuminate more about the incidents that resulted in this trial. Stay with us as we probe further into his disclosures and the ensuing testimonies in our forthcoming segment. Witness Gary Farrow stepping back on the stand as the day moves forward. Before we dive into the courtroom drama, we take a detour to the courthouse steps, where reporters catch a glimpse of Trump, bashing the raging pro-Palestinian protests on college campuses nationwide. He dismissively refers to them as Biden protests, and presents the alarming image of colleges being overrun. Trump draws a comparison between the 2017 Charlottesville Unite the Right rally, a catalyst for Biden's presidential campaign, and the current campus protests, suggesting the latter overshadow the former. Quoting an incident of Hamilton Hall at Columbia University being occupied by pro-Palestinian students, he highlights the escalating tensions. In a speculative tone, Trump questions the fate of these pro-Palestinian protesters as compared to the January 6, 2021, Capitol rioters who breached the building amid his denial to accept the 2020 election defeat to Biden. Meanwhile, Judge Merchan dictates Trump to eradicate the posts from Truth Social that breached the gag order by 2:15 p.m. ET. Michael Cohen, the frequent target of Trump's critique and the cited violations of the gag order, applauds the decision. Now, let's shift our focus back to the courtroom and Farrow's testimony. The court hears a series of testimonies, each more shocking than the last. The day begins with the testimony of Gary Farrow. Farrow is back on the stand, and the courtroom is filled with suspense. He talks about his encounters with Michael Cohen, describing how there was always an urgent matter 90% of the time. Farrow also reveals that the bank often asked for the purpose of money transfers to ensure it was aware of what it was getting involved in. On the official document related to the $130,000 transfer to Keith Davidson's account, Michael Cohen penned down the reason as retainer, which was, flatly, a lie according to Farrow. Interestingly, Farrow denied any indication on the paperwork of money being transferred on behalf of a political candidate. However, the defense does not let Farrow's testimony go unchallenged. Attempting to impugn his credibility, they hinted towards lax practices within Farrow's group and suggested that they should have known about Cohen's long-standing involvement in dubious business. They question his practices, focusing on his statement that he never opened shell companies. The defense also requests the court to redact a text that talks about shady stuff going on. The courtroom is left wondering, what could this text possibly reveal? The testimonies continue, with Robert X. Browning and Philip Thompson taking the stand. The prosecutors play a clip from a Trump rally in North Carolina, leaving the jury to watch videos of Trump's remarks. However, the lack of context leaves them puzzled and searching for clues. The defense decides not to cross-examine Browning, leaving the audience pondering over the implications of this decision. As Philip Thompson takes the stand, he is now the second witness called solely for records authentication purposes. The last guy, Robert X. Browning, came from Indiana, leading his employer, C-SPAN, to hire counsel. Now, it's clear Thompson's employer, Esquire Deposition Solutions, has also had to hire counsel and fly him out from Texas to serve as a witness in the trial. All of this could have been avoided if Trump's legal team had been willing to acknowledge the C-SPAN videos and Carroll deposition transcript were authentic, and enter into a simple agreement to that effect. Instead, we now see these two witnesses having to testify themselves to prove authenticity on records. As the day progresses, the anticipation in the courtroom grows. The audience waits with bated breath for the arrival of Keith Davidson, the lawyer involved in the hush money trial related to an alleged affair between Trump and a Playboy playmate. Davidson steps up to the stand, ready to reveal his part in this complex tale. Davidson begins his testimony, and the courtroom is on the edge of their seats. The day has been filled with shocking revelations, and everyone is eager to find out what Davidson has to say, as he prepares to delve into the details of his work in civil litigation and his interactions with Cohen. As Davidson takes the stand, revealing startling details about the Trump affair, the courtroom falls into a hush. Keith Davidson, a lawyer who played a pivotal role in the hush money trial, begins to dissect his dealings with Michael Cohen and his involvement in the McDougal story. As he delves into his past in civil litigation, a portrait of a seasoned legal practitioner begins to take shape. There's a sudden stir in the courtroom as observers notice Trump, who appears to have dozed off in the midst of these revelations. The scene takes an unexpected turn as Davidson delves into the use of pseudonyms in the settlement agreement. He reveals that Peggy Peterson and David Dennison were used to identify Stormy Daniels and Trump respectively. This cryptic detail adds an extra layer of intrigue to an already complex case. Davidson recalls his first encounter with Cohen after Trump and Stormy Daniels' relationship had been publicized in 2011, as the courtroom leans in to listen closely. Davidson's testimony takes another turn as he recalls a text exchange with National Enquirer reporter Dylan Howard, discussing a blockbuster Trump story that further raises the stakes. Davidson testified that the story was about the interactions between Trump and Davidson's client, Karen McDougal. Throughout his testimony, Davidson describes his conversations with Karen McDougal. He refuses to reveal content, citing attorney-client privilege, but the vague details are enough to captivate the court. Davidson's story of a meeting where McDougal alleged an affair with Trump spanning several weeks to months sends a shockwave through the courtroom. He reveals that one of McDougal's primary concerns was keeping her story out of the public eye, a revelation that raises more questions than it answers. As Davidson recounts the details of the deal negotiations for McDougal's story, including the National Enquirer's intentions to help McDougal and Trump by buying the story, then he drops a bombshell. The Access Hollywood tape had a significant influence on the Daniels story. "Before Access Hollywood tape, there was very little interest from what I understand," he said. His testimony darkens as he admits they had to pad the deal to ensure he got his cut. The tension escalates as he states that no one wanted to deal with Cohen, and he didn't believe Cohen was the source of the deal's funds. The scene culminates in Davidson's chilling statement: "It would be a tornado if the Daniels story got out." Lunch break sees another dramatic turn as Trump, defying the gag order, posts on Truth Social. The post, a cryptic message about the ongoing trial, read, "This judge has taken away my constitutional right to free speech. I am the only presidential candidate in history to be gagged. This whole trial is rigged, and by taking away my freedom of speech, this highly conflicted judge is rigging the presidential of 2024 election interference," the post continued. The court adjourns, leaving the audience in anticipation of what's to come in the next session. As the gavel strikes, the courtroom is left to digest Davidson's startling revelations, pondering the implications of this bombshell testimony. As the day draws to a close, we ponder on the significant highlights of today's courtroom proceedings. The court will be back in session this Thursday, commencing with a gag order hearing at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. The jury is slated to reconvene at 10 a.m. To keep yourself updated with the proceedings of this trial, we encourage you to subscribe to our channel and turn on the notifications bell. We're intrigued to hear your thoughts. Do you think today's testimonies bolstered the prosecution's case? Your perspectives enrich our discourse, so don't hesitate to share your thoughts in the comments section below.